So we are on our fourth Sunday in the exploration of the book, Ordinary Mysticism, by Mirabai Starr. So in this book of Ordinary Mysticism, we have explored our intention, our attention, surrendering into radical amazement, and this week is called Transmission, at the feet of the masters. Transmission. I learned how to crochet from my Aunt Eileen, who is in her freedom form. She taught me in New York, sitting on the couch, over and over, these little tiny hands, how to get a crochet needle in and through, and how to wrap the yarn around what was just a big bundle of yarn, and how to turn it into something. And I've never been much on the structure of things. Like, I'll try to put together something, I'll try to put together a bed, but I don't want to read the directions. I want to learn how to crochet, but I'm never going to look at a pattern. And I can play music, but I've only taken one class. So it's not music in the way that, a trained musician can really read music and dive into the structure of it. It's like, I get it just enough to take it to where I want it to go, right? And so I learned to crochet, and what I can do is make hats. I could make any of you a hat if you wanted one. I can make baby hats, and that's what I tend to do because, in fact, the amount of time it takes to make a baby hat is about the amount of time I want to spend crocheting. And that can get old, yeah? I mean, anyone have the same kind of patterns, or anyone know how to just take it to the limit and just go through the roof with it, right? It's like, whew. And so I see these other things and I think that looks great, but I have resistance to following the blueprint and following the pattern. So the times that I've tried to make something and like duplicate symmetry, not so good. I can do one glove. I could make one-handed doll things, maybe a little doll skirt I could do. But if you want me to do something in a pattern and repeat it, forget it. So I've been a little out of the crocheting thing for a while because, it takes a long time to do it. And, you really have to have the space to do it. Do you know what I'm talking about having the space to do something? Artists in the house. I one time took a pottery class in the middle of general ministry, and I had to drive over to Brookside to take the class. And there is nothing more awful than having a time frame for taking a pottery class, right? Like, take that clay and stick it in the middle of the wheel, and and it slips, and it slips. And then you got to start cleaning up. If I'm going to do pottery, I need a day. Like, I need a whole day and nothing else vying for my attention. And that's how art and creativity can be, right? You have to create the spaciousness for the transmission, the spaciousness to get in the groove. Otherwise, you're just making something, right? You're just making a product. So I kind of got out of the crocheting habits. But recently, I saw a little video and image of someone who crocheted in a flat pattern. But they did these little tricks, which are not tricky, and they wove out. If there's any people that work with yarn, you could, usually you kind of just go in a pattern, follow something, but they wove out into these almost like rivers and made this like rainbow tie-dye-ish kind of just pattern that swirled and swerved. And I texted to my friend and I was like, this winter, here we go. It opened up a whole new little world of what I could do with my skill set. And I thought, I'm going to take that on. This looks like fun. It engaged me. Well, I realized something about myself. When I get into ruts, even with songwriting, I either have to have a strong demand on me, like someone says, I want you to write a new song for Memorial. And I had that happen one time. A person in her freedom form, they were asking me to do the music for her memorial. And I didn't know her. And so I always do a little prayer. What would you have me do? And I kept getting this, like, you got to write a song. You got to write a new song. I'm like, I don't know if anything's going to come out. And then I had them tell me about her. I said, tell me more about her. Well, she told people what was up and she told people what to do. And you couldn't just recreate stuff for her. You had to and it was literally like this woman just told me I needed to write her a song. And I did, and this beautiful song came through, Travel On, which Crazy Carl, Mad Max, and I spent time with Larry, our sound guy, on Friday in his hospice room, and we tortured him with our music for about an hour. I say that lovingly. And I played him that song, Travel On. It ends with the Unity Prayer for Protection. But I got it out of demand, right? So the other way I can get my creative energies flowing is out of spaciousness. But I didn't realize until this chapter with Mirabai Starr that there's a third way that levels up my creative energy. Something happens when I go to music festivals. When I go to a folk festival, I start hearing different things, feeling different sounds, feeling movement, feeling that creative energy, and my songwriting gets activated. And it took me a while to get it. But being in the presence of those who know more, play more, right? Like soaking in that energy, giving myself, one, the spaciousness, right? Two, the demand. Here you go. You are sitting in front of it and you get to have music and nothing else for 3 days. And three, sitting at the foot of those who are inspired and alive with music helps level me up, helps reignite that flame. Well, this chapter by Mirabai Starr is all about getting into the highest expressions of art, creativity, music. I would even add in there science. Raise your hand if you're one of the artists in the room. Yeah, raise your hand if you're one of the musicians in the room. Raise your hand if you love words, if you're one of the word people. Either you love reading them or writing them, but you digest them like they have been prepared by a cook on a platter, right? There is a portal there, is there not? A portal there? You don't just do it and keep engaging it because nothing happens to your being, right? We engage it because what is ordinary becomes extraordinary when we soak in that field of consciousness, that field of expression, that field of creativity. It brings something to each moment of life that was otherwise absent, no? I was realizing as I was looking out of my dashboard this morning, driving here, because it was not a particularly beautiful morning. You know, I look out and I always look to see the beauty, but it was kind of like there was nothing extraordinary. And I realized as I was driving, the artist sees with different eyes. What could be an ordinary morning to me, and I'm looking for flares and flashes, right? I'm looking for the strokes. I'm looking for it to be painted and given to me. But the artist doesn't wait for it to be delivered to them. The artist actually becomes one with it, right? It's like it's an interaction that happens from the space of the communion. And from the communion comes the art. From the communion comes the song, comes the word, right? A word is just a word, but put a word in an artist's hand, becomes life and life-giving. Raise your hand if you're someone that consumes all of that, music, art, poetry, sacred scripture, sacred text, right? If you consume it, what does it do for you? What does it do for your life, right? You become one with it as you consume it. And it brings us into a different realm. That's what Mirabai Starr is talking about in this chapter. And there is so much potential for each one of us to be inspired, to be nourished, to be uplifted, and to be expanded when we dive into a sacred practice with the intention and the attention on that creative flow. It's not just about making products and making paintings, right? It's not just about what we produce. It's about the experience of it, yeah? I like to teach that we each have a God language. I grew up Catholic, and I grew up thinking that if I tried on everything that the priest says in order to activate my practice as a good Catholic, that I should be able to see, hear, understand, feel the spirit of what is being said. And some of my journey in Catholicism was about being just banged over the head with like, I'm trying, and there's nothing happening. And like, I'm not talking just little trying. I'm talking a kid, crying in bed, just trying to follow the instructions. Can you feel that? Trying to follow the instructions. Like there's more here. I'm trying to see it. Like I'm peeling my eyes open as hard as I can. I'm trying to see. I'm trying to feel. I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be what I'm here to be. I'm trying to follow the path, and it's not working. There's nothing there. I'm asking, ask and you shall receive. I'm asking and I'm not getting anything. I'm not getting anything. Have you been there? And I realized in my unity walk, in my unity path, because I've had amazing teachers like Robert Brummett and Norma Rosado, I have recognized that it's not that it wasn't there. It's not that it isn't there. It's that we can't always teach each other about our God language. We cannot put on glasses for each other. We have to learn. Part of the spiritual path, part of the walk is learning your lens. And you have to put on your own glasses. That's why the master teacher said, take it up and walk. That's why the master teacher could walk up to people in poverty, in sickness, and go, let me stand with you and be with you in this moment. Let me share my lens for just a moment because I see straight through what you're looking at to something absolutely divine. Master teachers, saints, sages throughout time have known this. There is no veil, no barrier, because the practice of the presence is the communion in the moment. I wrote this in the morning on the way here. An artist has an eye that sees beyond the surface into what's truly there. If you love an artist, feel that. Thank them. A musician has an ear that hears layers the untrained ear cannot perceive. I'll include a sound guy with that. A dancer creates movement that stretches beyond muscle memory and the limits of the body. The poet listens for words. The poet weaves rhythms and patterns and images in a way that only a lover of language can metabolize and rearrange into something new. Has anyone heard beat poetry? Look that up. If you haven't heard beat poetry, you could take a poem, and if you go into a room of young people, like putting their words to rhythms and speaking them aloud, the space is electrifying. I've had people just bring tears right to my eyes, bring me through all of the emotions and deliver me to where they would have me at the end by the power of their rhythm, their choice of word. There was one year in high school, junior high school, somewhere in there, that I decided not to take choir. And I think I've shared this story before, but I decided, I was in high school, I'm going to get a free period and just sit there and do nothing. I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to do my homework, whatever it is. But I have a free period. And the one that I could kind of negotiate out of was choir. That was one of my electives. And so I stepped out of choir for that semester. And as I went through the semester, I just kind of felt out my life and everything, got to the end. And I don't know, maybe it was 2 semesters, who knows. But I realized something. I realized I was a bit depressed. That there was like a layer of something happening in me that it's like things just, the colors muted, that feeling? Like the monotony of life, right? Just like life can be a bit of a little hamster wheel sometimes, can it be? Just like, here I go again. Have you had those times in life where you're like, I'm brushing my teeth again. I'm in the shower again. Now I'm going to work again. Now I'm making food again. Now I'm doing this again, and I'm doing that again. And I'm going to be doing this every day of every month of every year until I lift off into my freedom form. I'm doing it again, and here I am at this again. And I really feel it that I just woke up and I'm doing this again. And there's like nothing that's new, nothing that's creative. It's all the same. Here I go again. I realized I was in that space, and the only thing I could figure out that I was doing differently is that I had taken myself out of choir. I had removed myself from the energy of coming together with people, putting notes to sounds. And that did something for me. And it was in that moment that I began to recognize my God languages. And when I realized that it's not just about creativity, it's not just about what I like, it's not about my gifts or my skills or my talents, but it's about what opens that portal in me to seeing things differently, feeling things differently, and experiencing things differently. I recognize that it is my job to take care of this body being I call Erin, and to give her what nutrients spiritually she needs to see with clearer vision. Eric Butterworth is one of Unity's, I don't even see it on here, so I'm going to have to make it up for you. Eric Butterworth, though, is one of Unity's most known ministers who is an author. And he said that it is what we consume that we become, that what we put in matters so much. It matters so much because it's part of what we give out and what we create. We know we're not here to be ordinary, but sometimes we step back. If we don't think we have the skill set, or we think, that's not for me, could you just imagine for a moment? Stand up if you're one of the music lovers. If you either make music or you just love music, stand up for me. And if you're in the Zoom room or the chat, just pencil it in. Now I want you to just look at your life, think about your life. In one instant, all music is gone. All music is gone. It never has been, it never would be, and you never get to experience a moment of music again. Please be seated. If you're an art lover, writing, painting, art, consuming art, stand, words, poetry, writings. Now really, 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 because this could just be I'm up or I'm down, right? But could you be brought to tears with me to think if someone didn't give you that art, if someone didn't give you that first pencil, that paintbrush, if it was gone from this realm, feel that. And you may be seated. I invite us to think for a moment about the power of that art. I wouldn't dare take a road trip without music. I mean, if you have not done this yet, this is your assignment for this week. Pick something in your day. It might be your drive to work. It might be actually going into whatever you do. If you work in an office, if you work with other people, it might be going into Kansas City, whatever it is, wherever you are. But whatever you do where you don't have a practice of bringing in what makes you come alive, I want you to switch it. I want you to think about what you do, what you love, and put a soundtrack to it. So think about one of your favorite songs, a song that makes you come alive, and instead do it in the shower. Instead, do it on the drive to work. Instead, go through your whole day at the office with your headset in until you need to talk to people, of course. And let that be the soundtrack. And just notice how things change. There is a burning in the heart when we come alive with our God language. And it's a fire that we're all here to experience. Howard Thurman says, don't let the world tell you what you're here to do. Go to where you come alive. Go to where you come alive. Because we're called to be alive. in Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 3:18, it says, "And we all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to another." This passage is about moving us beyond ordinary sight into the extraordinary presence. Mirabai Starr says, "An everyday mystic is always on the lookout for what is true, what is beautiful, what breaks open the husks of conventional perception and sanctifies the imagination." She goes on to say, "Harvest the wisdom of the ones who walked before us and of those who are living right now, grappling with the same issues we are, with an open mind and a courageous heart. Don't neglect voices from the margins. Follow their breadcrumbs home to love. Use everything you can find as a battering ram to break down the door to the divine encounter. If you are what you eat, then reading the mystics, you become one." She goes on to say, listen to music. Make music. She tells us to use the mind to transcend the mind. And I want to close with this beautiful piece, if I can find it. Take one step toward me, and I will take 10 steps toward you. Walk toward me. I will run toward you. Namaste.